In today's video, we are on the M6 motorway between junction 32 and junction 33. The distance between junctions 32 and 33 on the M6 is around 13 miles, and that makes it Britain's third longest motorway junction. At this point, the M6 is passing through the county of Lancashire. The county of Lancashire has always been known for its famous tower, but aside from Blackpool Tower, there is another famous tower on the M6 that most drivers are very familiar with, and because of this tower, the motorway service area that it was built in is arguably one of the most recognisable motorway services in Britain. The actual name of the tower is the PENNINE Tower, and we're going to be taking a look at it. So let's discuss it. One the trucker's eye. FORTON Services on the M6 was constructed in 1964. The cost of the build is estimated in some quarters as £885,000. The equivalent in 2025 money will be around £14 million. The rank organisation, trading under their top rank Motor Inns division, commissioned well-known architectural firm TP Bennett & Sons to design them something exciting and different, which would also take advantage of the fantastic views as you looked out from the restaurant. And that's exactly what the architects did. In the 1960s and in the early days of motorways and service stations, service areas were seen as more of a destination, more than a rest stop for traffic simply passing by on the motorway. And TP Bennett architects came up with the idea of the PENNINE Tower. Not only was it the focal point of the services, but it was also a great advertisement. But did you know that the tower wasn't actually built as high as it was originally planned to be? The PENNINE Tower stands at 65 feet, which is around 20 metres high. However, the original design would have seen it stand at 96 feet high, which is around 29 metres. The tower was designed to resemble an airport control tower, which I find in hindsight is quite ironic. The company who currently operate FORTON Services, or Lancaster as it is known today, is a company called Moto Hospitality. And if you look at some of Moto's more recent motorway service station builds, you might notice that some of the buildings today, like this one at Wetherby or this one at Rugby, seem to resemble airport departure lounges. Taking a look inside the Wetherby Services building, you would be forgiven for thinking that you're not actually at an airport. But going back to the PENNINE Tower, what was the reason it wasn't built at the original height that it was designed to be? Well, as with most things, it came down to planning permission. And I'm not sure that the 9 metres of difference would have made a lot of difference anyway, especially now that the tower is no longer in use. So this is the reason I don't think that 9 metres difference in height would have made much difference at all to the views from the PENNINE Tower. Repurposing the GoPro file from earlier on, you can clearly see the altitude above sea level as we head up towards Lancaster Services increases dramatically. In fact, from half a mile just before the entrance to the services, we ascend around 60 feet to what is the highest point of the motorway between junctions 32 and 33. If you then factor in that the services is actually at 222 feet above sea level, and then add the PENNINE Tower on top, you can understand why you might get some really nice views from the top of the PENNINE Tower. But even if the tower stood as high as Blackpool Tower, it wouldn't matter one jot, as in 1989 the tower was sadly closed. There is however some footage and photographs around the internet that allow us to see inside the tower before and after it was closed to the general public. So let's see what we can find. So this is probably the most famous photograph of the inside of the Pennine Tower. It's fairly obvious that this is a photograph from when the tower was open to the public. But there is another photograph available online that shows you this exact location. And even in this photograph from quite a few years ago, you can clearly see that the tower is already in a dilapidated state. And despite the perception and the angles in the photographs being different, this is where the chef would have been standing, and this would be where the two lady customers are eating their lunch. There are quite a few photographs of the Pennine Tower as it stands abandoned today. Whilst it's a shame that the tower is now closed to the general public, and it has been since 1989, nobody could deny how good a job the architects did of designing the tower. As here we are 60 years later, still talking about it. But something that doesn't get talked about is the actual attention to detail on the site. As we said earlier, the tower was designed to resemble an airport control tower, and that's the reason for the tower being hexagonal. But paying attention to detail, which you probably wouldn't get in many service area buildings today, hexagons were actually a feature of the whole of the site. As you can see from this drone footage, the restaurant of today, which was originally the second restaurant when the services were first built, was also hexagonal in shape. And already I'm starting to think that one of the most regular customers that this site must have had must have devised this TV show.
Let's play blockbusters.
Hexagons everywhere. And it wasn't only the services on the northbound side of the M6 that these hexagons were confined to. Heading across the M6 to the southbound side, seen here on the top of your screen, you can see yet another hexagon. And still the hexagons didn't stop there. In this grainy photograph you can see some of the landscaping was also made of hexagons. To me they look like some sort of plant beds. Apparently this photograph was taken from the Pennine Tower itself, and from what I can gather, the area here has been developed a little bit further than what it was in this day and age, meaning that they've all gone now. We have almost come to the end of our video, but just before we do finish, this service area was so famous that it even featured in a half man, half biscuit video. It's time for us to get back on the road to get to another destination for another video and another day. Once again, thank you very much for watching the video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, then please give it a thumbs up. If you're already subscribed to the channel, then it really is appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please consider doing so, as it really helps me out. I really can't leave this video without saying, I'll have a pee please Bob. And I'll see you all next time. On the trucker's eye!
Can I have a pay, please? Well, of course, already, please.